Okay, we have the Carl's 1967 Corvette Stingray. And Chris, I think where we left off, it just kind of rolled off the back of the truck and it's put in place here. And I think the update was that maybe 1984, last time it was literally driven on the road, perhaps.
Yeah, Chris and Carl were saying maybe sometime in the 80s they parked it. Not really sure why they parked it.
Right.
But I know Chris said that he tried to start it up in 2004.
Yeah.
And there were some problems when they started it. It was leaking some coolant and dripping some other stuff. So I think they ran it for a little bit and pushed it back into the garage. So
as a mechanic, what are the concerns when a car hasn't been running for a very long time? Like, what are the things that are different than maybe a car's been parked for 6 months?
Well, there's always a concern with the seals, but you won't know any of that until you get it going.
Okay.
My first thing is to get the gas out of it, the bad gas out of it, which it looks like there might be a couple gallons. The good news is I don't see any crusty varnish in the tank. It just looks like really old yellow fuel. I don't know if you can get a look in there, but that is.
Oh, I can. Yeah. Let's see if I can focus on it. Yeah, that's not doesn't look great.
Nope.
Looks like. So what's the plan with that? How are you going to deal with it?
Well, So I'll put together a little contraption where I can get a little 12-volt fuel pump, and we'll pump that out. I'll flush it out, pump it out again. There's so much room in the Corvette fuel tank that it really wouldn't be any easier to drop the tank than it would be to just go ahead and flush it from the top. So I decided to go a different route with draining the fuel, which I think is going to be a little bit easier. Have this. I actually started draining some of the gas out of there already. It's working pretty good. Now I'm just going to get the rest of the fuel out of here, and then we will add some fresh gas. Add some fresh gas in here and go from there.
Right. Some people may not be familiar. A Corvette does not have a trunk in the back.
Right.
And the whole behind the window, really, this is entirely a gas tank, isn't it?
Yeah. Yep. And this is something different to see. Like nowadays, you've got that little tiny nozzle where and it's got little valves and stuff.
Right.
This just goes straight in.
Wow, that is a big wide throat.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Pretty easy to. Ooh, you can smell that gas. Pretty easy to just go ahead and drain that out.
Right.
Or suck that out, and then I'll put a couple gallons of fresh gas in there, and that'll be good for the fuel. And then once we start it, we'll check for fuel leaks. I'll check and see if there's any fuel filters in line, but I'll purge the system too, so we'll get some fresh gas in the lines before we start it. And then the other part too is just these are the things that I find to be most important on something that's been sitting this long. So we'll pull the spark plugs. We'll take a look and see what condition the spark plugs are in. I'm going to spray some penetrating oil into all the cylinders, and pretty good amount actually. I like to get enough in there, so I let it sit for 24 hours.
Right.
My plan is to let it sit for a couple days, and then we'll get some fresh fuel up here, and then I'll see if it'll crank over. We'll get a battery in here, see if she'll turn over, and go from there.
Okay.
So
very good. And as far as I guess you don't even know like what the transmission's like until you get it running.
No.
The brakes don't work, but you don't know why yet.
Right. And then, you think about the brakes, the clutch, the clutch is kind of the same deal. It's sat for so long. There's springs, there's bearings. I believe this has been inside, so we might not have to deal with too much of that. But, if the clutch is engaging or not engaging, the springs and the clutch pack and all kinds of variables. So nothing we'll know until we actually get the motor to crank over and start running. So
now, one thing occurs to me for something that possibly hasn't been on the road in 40 years. I don't see any signs of varmints, rodents, whatever in here that I can see.
No, you're right. There's usually the little footprints on the air filter and around that. And I don't see any cat or any kind of hair that would usually be nesting, staying around over there.
That's no nesting, if you want to put it that way. So that's really kind of cool. That's maybe unusual, I would say.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm pretty sure, just the way we saw it when we got it out of his garage, I'm pretty sure he had it maybe in that same garage through the whole period of time.
Right.
And then with a cover on it. So, which is why the interior, other than the carpet, I think that interior is in really good shape too.
Yeah, we didn't really take a very good look inside. Let's have a look.
Yeah, I think Carl said they put his hand on the console, or someone did, and unfortunately broke that. But he said he has another one. So
Yeah, in Arizona, plastic, anything dries out so
Yeah.
much over the years.
yeah, but the seat and the dash, I mean, the seats maybe could use a little attention, but the dash is in good shape. Just clean up. A carpet kit in here would really change the look inside. It wouldn't take much.
I love the unrestored vintage car smell. I wish I could convey that. It smells interesting. I
Right?
love it. It's just really cool.
Candle opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, okay. Yeah, and like even the carpet back here it's in good condition. Someone might want to re-dye it or something, but
Yep.
it's in good shape. It's amazing.
You know, anymore you can, I mean, I bought a carpet kit for my 70 Camaro. It's a few $100s. It's almost not worth it. I mean, by the time you pulled this out and dyed it and put it back in, you're
Right?
although it is original, but you're almost better off just
Yeah.
getting a carpet kit for it.
Now he's got a good car to work with because, you know, just even shutting the door,
Right.
the seams are all lining up so
The
well.
body's straight. I don't hear anything cracking or creaking other than the normal stuff. So
Yeah. Yeah, his biggest problem is going to be people wanting to buy it from him is
right,
when he doesn't want to sell it.
right, right. Well, especially once it's running and driving, you'll get the
Yeah.
guys at the gas station.
Yeah, exactly. All right, and what engine is this? Let's cover that real quick.
I haven't checked it. 327 would be my guess.
Yeah,
Um,
that sounds right.
Yep, I'd say 327 unless somebody's swapped it out. But I'll do a little more research on it once I get things cleaned up.
Okay.
And once we get it fired up, well, and I'll pressure wash and degrease everything in here, kind of make it look a little bit better, and then just start diagnosing down from there.
Excellent. Well, very good, Chris. Well, thanks for giving us a little one-star. We can't wait to see this thing. Listen to it run, right?
Yeah,
Not
looking
just see it
forward to
run.
it. I'm sure Carl will be very excited.
Yes, he will. All right, thanks.
So back to the Corvette. So I've started pulling the spark plugs. I got everything out of the driver's side, and I'm putting penetrating oil in the cylinders. I have just about got the fuel drained out of the tank, all except for maybe just a little bit in the bottom. And then I'm going to get in there with a little rag and a stick and wipe out the tank, make it nice and clean. And we'll add some fuel to that. Tell by the color of that, it's probably not any good. And the smell, it's pretty, you can smell how stale that gas is. But here's my little contraption, little plastic tube. I'm holding the button down for about 6 to 8 seconds just to get some penetrating oil in each cylinder. And then I've got new spark plugs coming, and we'll get those in there today. I'm working on the other side and got a couple of the plugs out already. I'm going to go ahead and cut those two coolant lines. They're going to need to be replaced anyway, but once I get these two lines cut out of the way, I will have a lot more room to work in here and get us ready for the replacement of those lines anyway.
Okay, on the next installment of getting a 67 Corvette back on the road after decades, Chris, what's next? Where are we at with this thing? I think we left off just kind of checking things over briefly.
Yeah, so I did a little work with it. I came and drained the fuel out of the back, and I put a couple gallons of gas in it, a couple gallons of fresh fuel. I blew out the fuel lines.
Good.
So we got clean fuel all the way up to the carb.
Oh, excellent.
I'm going to go ahead and take the air cleaner off. And part of what we did to get things going was I pulled all the spark plugs. The owner said the spark plugs were new. I took them out. They had some pretty good crust on them, and they're a few dollars a piece, so it's not a big deal. So I sprayed some lubricant in all the cylinders. We let it sit for 24 hours, put the spark plugs back in, put the plug wires back on, and my next step is I'm going to pull the coil wire. And I'm going to grab the keys, and I did put a new battery in it too.
Oh, good. Yes.
I cut some of these lines just because it was easier for me to get around.
Right?
Yeah, you know, and they're so old, we're going to replace them anyway, but it gave me so much more room just to kind of get to the battery and spark plugs. And
sure.
So let me grab the keys.
Okay.
I was trying to turn it with the belts. I was just kind of giving the belts a turn, and I noticed it wasn't really moving very good. So I snipped the old belts off. I got new belts coming, and as soon as I took the belts off, the crank turned.
Oh.
And so come to find out the water pump is completely seized. So we've got that completely disconnected.
Do you know, someone just doing a quick hand pull like that, might think the engine's seized.
Yeah.
And it turns out it's the water pump.
Turns out, yep,
That's an
absolutely
interesting point.
And at first, when I tried to turn it, I couldn't get anything to move, and the belt was actually like stuck in the groove, so it wasn't turning at all.
Right.
And so that's when I, cut the belts, started turning each pulley bites. I thought the air pump was seized up. It is not either. It is just the water pump. So yeah, we got a new one.
Hey, this is a rare 67 air pump. That's how many of those are still on a
Isn't that crazy?
A Chevy from 67.
Yeah. So I don't think it's been messed with. This is a great car.
Yeah.
But so the next thing I'd like to do is I'm going to crank it over. I checked the oil. I changed the oil. So we've got fresh oil in there. Next thing I'm going to do is crank it over and build oil pressure. Once we get the oil pressure up, then we'll hook the coil wire back on and see what happens.
Okay, cool. That sounds good. You have a pressure gauge in there?
Yeah, it's coming up. And it just came up.
Look at that.
So we're good there.
Yep.
I'm going to grab a little carb spray just to kind of prime it too.
Okay. We'll get some lubricant on the door hinge at some point.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Wow. That started quick.
That was amazing.
So the oil pressure's up real nice.
Yes, it is.
We don't have a water pump hooked up, so we're going to give her about 15, 20 seconds and we'll shut it down.
Wow. That
Great.
sounds good.
Okay, next step is getting that water pump replaced.
Yes.
I'm not sure if we're going to have any trouble with the carburetor, but we'll just see how that plays out over the next few weeks, and we'll go from there.
Okay. Excellent. What a great update. Man, this is coming together a lot faster. One question for you. I think the owner mentioned that the starter was bad, but it seems like you're using it.
It seems like it's cranking over just fine. It sounds better than most of the stuff I have. So let's try one more thing if you're up for it. I'm going to close the hood.
Yep.
I don't know anything about the transmission, if it'll engage or if it won't engage.
Oh, right.
I know the brakes are not working, but the e-brake does.
Okay.
So I'm just going to see if I can move it forward a few feet and see what kind of shape the tranny's in.
Let's do that. It's moving.
Wow.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Even have lights.
That's great. And the brakes do not work at all. They went right to the floor, but the e-brake works.
Okay, and the lights are still on.
Are they?
I wonder if that's a brake switch. Yep. Okay, you got it.
Yeah, well, a little sticky.
There might be a few small things.
That is fantastic news.
Wow, so it's
that's a
already
huge...
moving under its own power.
Yep.
That did not take nearly as long as I had imagined. So that bodes well for this car. Really good.